ad-lib.
Okay, we're live. Hey, how's it going? I'm Matt, and welcome to Matt's Vietnam Life. Coming to you from Saigon as usual. I was hoping that I was going to be in the Mekong actually this week. That was the big plan until I didn't get my license. I still haven't got my motorbike license yet. The big plan, of course, if you've been watching my channel for a while, the big plan was to get my license back. I've been wanting to get it renewed for 3 months or so now, and I still haven't got it. So the plan was to be down in the Mekong, but I've got the next best thing. And I've got Professor Chuong with me today, and he's a Mekong expert. So if you'd seen the social media around this live stream today, hopefully you will have read his bio, which is a pretty impressive bio. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for joining the live stream.
Yeah. Well, good afternoon from the riverside. It is part of a stretch of Saigon River that come out to our area called District 7.
Yeah.
Part of the, enlarging, spreading Ho Chi Minh City. Uh, so happy to be here with Matt and extending my greetings to you and to the northern part of the Mekong section.
Yeah, well, is this actually, what river is this? Or is it a canal? I was trying to establish the other week whether it was a river or a canal.
This one is a river.
It is a river.
It is
Okay.
a river.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yep.
Because there is perhaps in the south, two major basins that kind of cover the whole southern Vietnam. If we don't account for the central part of Vietnam, the three river system, but we have a Dong Nai basin, which is part of this is part of the Dong Nai
Right.
basin, and then we have the Mekong, and the Mekong basin is bigger, and it has far more waterways, as well as the volume of water is higher, and it is much longer than the Dong Nai. This is part of the Dong Nai basin.
Right,
So
okay.
yeah,
Because the Saigon River, which of course it goes through Saigon, doesn't it? Well,
Exactly,
it
yeah.
kind of goes on the edge
Skirt,
of
yeah,
it, skirts around,
skirt
doesn't it?
around, yeah.
And then it kind of runs out into the Domino River. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it going up a little bit, and then it become part of the whole branches is called uh, the Dong Nai, the Lang Nga River, Sông Bé River, and then the Vam Có Đông, Vam Có Tây, and that some of them got all the way into Cambodia, but basically the Dong Nai is you know from the point of view of we divided southern part of Vietnam into Tây Nam Bộ, which is the delta, and then Đông Nam Bộ, which is the part that Saigon belonged to.
Yeah, right. So just to explain Nambo,
Nam Bộ, yes.
it's sort of is it an official word to describe this part of
Well,
Vietnam?
the term Nam Bộ lasted quite a few I would say 100 years easily, because the advance of the Vietnamese population, when they moved north to south, we called it the southern advance or Nam Tin. And then many of them walked the narrow stretch, near the ocean side, and then they along this kind of a rivage, we call it, the coastline,
Right.
and then slowly got into the delta. But the delta has a long history in terms of ethnic presence.
Right.
And I would say 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, it was part of this larger Cambodian kingdom.
Right.
And you can still find, for example, the old name for Saigon used to be called Pre Nokor.
Yeah.
And then,
What does Prey mean? City?
yeah,
Because I see it in
yeah.
Cambodia.
Yeah,
I see
Pre,
the names of the city, or some cities that say Prey.
yeah, right, Pre, and Phnom, which is the hill. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry. We're talking tech stuff. We got a few issues with the Wi-Fi, but
Okay.
is it back? Not yet. Okay, I might have to switch over to my phone.
Okay.
Just
a little interruption.
Yeah, a little interruption. Yeah, let me.
We're here. We're here.
We're recording the audio at least.
All right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right. Bear with us. It's not the first tech issue we've had today, and it's not going to be the last, is it? Okay. Okay. Okay, we're back. I think we're back. Sorry about that. Thanks.
Brief interruption.
Thanks for hanging around. I think that's what happens when you're in the Mekong.
Yeah.
And hang on, before you continue, sorry. Can everybody hear us okay? And can you hear Chung okay? Let us know. Just I don't know. Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us okay. We're using a different mic setup today, as you can see.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry about that. So you were talking a little bit about the history. Hold on to that for a moment,
Okay.
because we've got people watching from around the world who haven't been to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Let's talk just basically about the Mekong Delta.
Okay.
A little bit of terminology. What is it?
Let me maybe trigger your imagination, right? So the Southeast Asia part, which encompasses the mainland section, I would call it mainland Southeast Asia, that is protruding from the southern part of the larger Asia continent, and then is sticking out, and that peninsula has 5 different countries, and we call it mainland Southeast Asia. We have Myanmar, which is near the Chinese border. We have Thailand, a bigger nation, and then we have Laos, which is a smaller kingdom, landlocked. Then we have Cambodia, which is Vietnamese western neighbor, which is a smaller country, and then we have Vietnam, which is the length of the whole eastern side of the peninsula. It's just occupied by the coastline of Vietnam. So you imagine like a protruding piece of land that advanced toward southern Pacific, right? And then the top, which is linking with China, has this huge an ice wall, I would say, or we call it the roof of Asia, which the Himalaya, the chain of the range of the mountain, which is pretty much like a big wall, icy, quite cold. And then when during the hot season, during the summertime, the wind coming from the south, coming from the southern Pacific, is kind of going up, get all of those evaporation from the land, from the heat. It become pretty hot kind of a cloud. By the time they hit against that ice wall, it's kind of bounce back, and that bouncing back become the monsoon.
So
right. Every single year, the two part of South Asia, which is the peninsula, Southeast Asia peninsula, and next would just be the southern, the whole Indian country is under the monsoon, because we subject ourselves to that kind of a movement of wind, of humidity that coming up from the southern Pacific, hit that nice ice wall, turn into huge rain, and for 6 months, ever since the month of April, May all the way
Well,
until October.
not so much this year.
Yeah.
This year's been a bit slow.
This year
because
was,
I've been
yeah.
measured. I've got a rain gauge.
Yeah.
You
told me about it.
Oh, did I already? I told you. Oh,
you
damn.
You put it on the roof
That's
of,
it,
the,
yes.
of the laundry.
Yeah, so we've
And
only
then,
had a little bit of rain.
You have not measured it for you every so often.
Every
right?
day.
Yeah.
I measure it every day. It's like
So,
cleaning my teeth. Once a day at least.
Usually, we have around 2,000 millimeters of rain per year, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to just ask you, so for people who haven't been to Vietnam before and especially in the south, who are not familiar with it and don't really realize how much rain we have. 2,000, how much is 2,000 millimeters?
Well, 2,000 millimeters is, of course, it's pretty big. Like
it's a lot.
You know, the state of California that I'm coming from, right? Well, we have 20 inches per year, which is, we think that, wow, you know, it's a very good rainy season. But here is 10 times that much.
Right, okay.
10 times that much.
Yeah.
And you can imagine, you know, and as you can see, the delta is very flat. And any big downpour of anything like, you know, 15 to 20 minutes of really pounding it, you got flood.
Right.
Flood all over.
So in terms of the Mekong Delta in Vietnam, because you could probably argue that the Delta also takes in Cambodia as well.
Right.
But let's talk about Vietnam. Where would you say it kind of starts? And obviously it finishes down Cà Mau.
Yeah.
Where's the line?
It will
north?
Start the moment when the river entering the border of between Laos and Cambodia, and then get to the town which I call Kache in Cambodia.
Right.
That's a part of the delta.
Okay.
Kache encompasses the eastern, you know, branch we call the Mekong, and then there, if you look at, you know, going further south, then you can see the meeting of the Tonle Sap River, and the Tonle Sap River goes up toward the big lake, the largest lake inland in Southeast Asia, the Tonle Sap, and I would say that's the delta.
So if you go across to east to Vietnam, so above Saigon, so the delta technically starts north of Saigon.
The delta technically is a little bit above Saigon. If you look at the map and the parallel of the city of Kratie, which is maybe somewhat equal to the central highland of Vietnam, you know, around Quy Nhơn, around, you know, maybe Nha Trang, and you can see that
high.
Yeah, but then because the Vietnamese Rockies is kind of like blocking it, so you don't see it very, you know, closely. But then when it veer, when the Mekong going toward the ocean, it veer a little bit left, and when it's veer left, it go toward the border town of Vĩnh Sương, and from there, you know, the river Mekong becoming Cửu Long, which is 9 dragon, and then it's spread out to 9 different branches, and then it reached the ocean.
So you said Cửu Long, which is like one of the Vietnamese words for the Mekong.
Yes.
What's the story behind that? How do you get that name?
I think it's just the legends of this powerful river that coming in, and then the symbolic, which is that, you know, it's very large with the branches, and the Vietnamese like, you know, this celestial animal, you know, dragon. I never see one, but it's supposed to be powerful. And then, you know, it carry sediment, it carry a lot of, you know, things that can build up the delta in such a way that there is, you know, a veneration, there is a respect for the nature, and by that they associated, you know, this celestial animal, dragon, with the power, with the generosity of nature, you know, to the region.
And so that that dragon is like 5,000 kilometers long, right? And then when it enters Vietnam,
it's become the dragon.
it
But then it's
branches.
begin in Tibet, in
Yep.
the high plateau of Tibet,
Yep.
going down toward Yunnan as the province that border Vietnam, and then it has from the height of almost 5,000 meters, it's dropped
Right.
precipitously, down, and so that kind of an elevation of the river kind of like allow China to use it as a water force, and
Right.
thereby they build dams because of the drop, because of the force of water, coming in such a short distance from such a height. So therefore, you
Yep.
see the whole part of Yunnan being turned into reservoir after reservoir. Then by the time they get to Laos, the Chinese told the Laos, say, hey, why don't you use the water? And the Laos say, sounds good. Can we use it? They say, of course. You will be the battery of Southeast Asia. The Laos say, oh, thank you. And then they start building more dams.
So you're touching on a topic that's really quite relevant for us today.
Yeah.
I hope you can think, because we've got music coming from different angles at the moment. So obviously Vietnam is at the tail end of the Mekong River,
Right.
and when the Mekong River comes into Vietnam, there are tributaries that come off it, which gives it the nine tails or whatever, nine dragons. But before the water gets to Vietnam, it's typically flowed 4,000 or 5,000 kilometers from Tibet.
Right.
What are some of the key issues that impact Vietnam as we speak from other neighboring countries?
Well, if it, go back into the previous, century, for example, in 1995, in 1995, the four countries get together: Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, and then Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia agreed upon some sort of a preliminary setup in order to build a commission, and that's when the Mekong River Commission started. It has some sort of activities of all the country sending the ministers coming together and try to come up with some sort of a developing the basin in a way that is going to accommodate the interests of each of the country. So that was pretty good. But then at that time, Myanmar and China didn't want to come join.
Right.
They just want to be observing. But the commission supposedly managed and then do these kind of important things that can get us agree upon a code of conduct, for example. It's never did.
Right.
It was a commission. It did a lot of research. The research are good, but it's never can actually do any kind of a political maneuvers, right?
Right.
Upon that, after that, in 1995, China is going to a boom, an economic boom, mainly in the 1970s and then in the 1980s. United States become get more interested in China. Nixon went to see Mao Zedong, and then after that, they become chummy. America sent Kentucky Fried Chicken, and China sent a bunch of stuff to the U.S. also.
Yeah.
So that would be, the ending of the Vietnamese conflict when U.S. shifted focus. Say, oh no, we're not going to do anything with Southeast Asia anymore. It's costly, and then now we can sell Kentucky Fried Chicken and maybe McDonald's as well. Here you see, the changes.
Yeah.
So at that time, China need a lot of energy, and China's being accused by the 1980s and 1990s of of too much pollution. They have thousands and thousands of these new factories, these new the rush toward modernization, and they need energy. And here, when you look west, you look to Yunnan, you look to the province. The province is, inhabited with minorities, and it has never been looked upon. And the Chinese say, hey, there's three rivers, three big rivers there. There is the Jiangjiang, which is the Yangtze River.
Yeah.
The other one is the Langshanjiang, which is the Mekong. And then the third one is the angry river we call Nojiang, Nujiang. And those rivers not being used.
Right.
Water just, being melted by the glacier and then just rush down to the ocean. No one use it. And the Chinese say, hey, let's dam the whole, river, and we can turn some
Start
of those
using it.
water to use it.
Yeah.
So a big plan
Yeah.
of having 11 big staircase dams, right on the main branch of the Langsang, which is the river of turbulence. That is the Chinese name for it, because
Right.
it's moody and it's powerful, and it's coming from, the high elevation.
So how much do you think that prevents, how much flow does that prevent, these
Well,
dams that have been built?
Officially, with some measurement and some report, only 16% of the main branch of the Mekong would reach the delta.
16.
16, 1/6.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
So China say, oh, you don't have any problem because it's only 16, and when the river travel from China all the way to your place, well, many other countries use it too.
Yeah.
Myanmar, it's
Right.
Laos, it's Thailand,
Okay.
it's Cambodia. So, if we have dams, it doesn't affect you too much, but it does.
Yep.
It does.
Yeah, 16% is not much, is it?
16%. Well, if you look at the whole flat delta, when all those river branches are nourishing a population, also support fisheries,
Yeah.
right? And right on the river, you see all these floating fisheries. If 16% lower, you will find that these cages that all those houses sit on will be pushed down,
Right.
and it's even 2-3 centimeters. You look at this, but it's affected with the strong tidal from two oceans.
Yeah.
There is on one side the Pacific Ocean, the other side the Indian Ocean, and we call it Bingdao, which is East Sea, and then Bingtai, West Sea.
Right.
So that forces kind of like it affecting. And so if you don't have enough water, right, for your fisheries, for your rice field,
Yep.
for your garden fruit, for your aquaculture, you'll be in trouble.
So in terms of agriculture and aquaculture,
Yeah.
how much of the Mekong Delta in Vietnam is responsible for food production in Vietnam?
The whole basin of 60 million of people living
How many?
along 60 million, because
60 million.
yes, because you look at the basin, you look at the people who live on both sides of the Mekong,
Right.
coming from Yunnan, coming from Tibet, you would see
Yeah.
the whole Laos, and then you see the Mekong become the natural
Right.
border between Thailand and Laos, are being used by Thailand, are being used by Laos. By the time it gets to Cambodia, it's feed 14 million of Cambodian, because Cambodian is using the fishery of the Tonle Sap.
Right.
And then when you get to the Mekong Delta, it's 20 million.
Yeah, there's 20 million about that live in the Delta. Yeah.
Plus Cambodia, let's say maybe between, say, 8 to 10 million. And then the population of Laos,
Yep.
the population in the eastern flank, of Thailand, and then also Yunnan. So if you look at the whole population of the basin,
Yeah.
easily 60 to 70
Wow, that's
million.
amazing.
Yeah.
So in terms of, I'm talking in Vietnam,
Right,
so
yeah.
20 million people
Mhm.
in the Mekong Delta.
Yeah.
What sort of land, what do you call it, surface are we talking about? So Australia, for example, has a population of about 25 million people,
Right. Yeah.
but the country is about as big as the US.
Right. Yeah.
So with the Delta, how...
Well, if you look at the whole basin, it was pretty narrow in Yunnan. both sides of the river are, are hillies.
Yeah.
So therefore, there's not much population.
Right.
By the time it gets down to the flatland,
Yep.
by the time it crosses the border of between Laos and then China, then you have more tributaries. You have more usage of the Mekong as irrigation. So when you dig canals, when you create, when you link branches and all that, you feed more people. And that was the moment when you do that,
Yep.
then you become important. You become the livelihood of a more spreading due to tributaries,
Yep.
due to lakes, due to reservoir,
Yep.
due to canals. That's what basically. I mean, if you look at the amount of canals in the Mekong Delta, you'll be amazed.
Yeah.
It's 4,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's for in Vietnam with the Delta, so 20 million people sort of really packed into a fairly small
Yeah.
compared to the US and compared to
the
Australia,
US, compared to Australia, comparing,
almost almost the
So-
population
so
of
You can see
Australia.
the density,
Yeah.
and it most of the big city are located right on the Mekong. For example, the southern branch, the Hao River, you have four big urban
Keep
areas.
going.
Yeah, and there's four big area is like from the border town of Châu Đốc, and then you get next to this, the number two largest city in the Delta is Long Xuyên. You get to Cần Thơ,
Yep.
over 1.5 million population. When you get to Sóc Trăng, is the coastline. Then you can combine all those large city with large consumption of water. You'll find that it's important for a normal flow,
Yep.
for a regular flow that we can bank on in order to prepare our crop, in order to feed animals, in order to maintain aquaculture. So you see, it's so important in a way that maintaining that regular flow.
Right. We might come back to agriculture and aquaculture in a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
There's probably a few people in the chat today who are thinking about coming to Vietnam.
Right.
Now, of course, in terms of travel, we have the hotspots like
Right.
Hanoi, Hoi An, especially Da Nang. Da Nang is coming up. There's a couple of people in the chat who have been recently. Saigon, of course,
Yeah.
people fly in and fly out of Saigon. They might spend a day or two. Then what happens typically when people come to Saigon, they'll do a Mekong day trip. It's like
Right.
one day,
Yeah.
which seems like it does the Mekong an injustice, doesn't it?
Definitely. Most definitely.
Um,
The kind of water when they descend onto the southern part of Vietnam, for example, every single day, the population there, the folks of the Delta, are dealing with various rhythm of water due to
yeah,
the forces of the tide, due to the kind of water that we receive from the rain, due to these, salt intrusion if we don't have enough water coming from upstream, and all of that, the population dealt and deal with every day. Fresh water, deal with brackish water,
Yep.
which is have high content of salt, and deal with salt water. So you have to have that kind of flexibility. Each particular type of water create an ecology, create a demand that when you grow things, when you do your aquaculture,
Yep.
you better choose freshwater fish, or you're gonna grow brackish water, or you're gonna do salt water. So it encompasses a lot of planning. It encompasses a lot of preparation for the season.
right.
But then I think for 50 years, the Mekong Delta was neglected. Upon they called it the renewing the achieving independence, achieving the joining of the two sides, the northern part and the southern part. The southern part did not have the same type of development plan that other part receive. So therefore, for example, I give you an example. For example, we have an expressway, right, coming out from Saigon, and it's only 40 kilometers down to Mito. Has been that for so long. Until recently, we kind of extended another 40 or 50 kilometers also to Cần, but it's very recent. So you look at this huge economic importance.
Right.
It has not been developed.
Yeah.
It has not been looked upon, and then we blame it onto climate change. We
Yep.
blame it onto many things, but exactly that the key thing, because Vietnam, it's still an agri-based society.
Right. I read somewhere the other day that
Yeah.
it's still 60-40. So 60%
Exactly.
agrarian and
Agrarian.
40%
and
urban.
then even urbanization, it's ongoing. But you see, during the COVID area time, during the COVID period, you see there is a exodus from city. People will come back to the countryside because they know that the part that can feed them.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? You
Yeah.
see? And so, I mean, policies wide, I think it's very important to conduct studies, and then particularly with water, which is the Vietnamese always use the two terms duc, meaning soil, and nước, meaning water,
Right.
to call the country, the two main elements. But then they always, do real estate. They like duck,
Yeah.
they like soil, but they don't think of water. So they're missing out.
So I think tourists are missing out as well. If they only do a day trip,
Yeah.
which they cram this day trip into like 10 hours, and it's like get up in the morning, 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, bus
Right.
picks them up at the hotel at 6 o'clock. They
Yeah.
might have a little bit of breakfast,
Yeah.
spend 2 hours or 3 hours in a bus getting to maybe Mito or Benche or something like that, and do very sort of touristy things which you would expect, and then herded back onto the bus and back to Saigon, and that's their Mekong experience.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with, because in my experience, whenever I go to the Mekong, as soon as I get over the Mekong River there at Mito,
Yeah.
which is only about
An hour,
an hour or so from Saigon.
Yeah.
As soon as I get over the bridge there at Mito, maybe get into Benche, I don't see any foreign tourists after that, because they all sort of stop at Mito or Benche or something like that.
Well, the furthest they go all the way down to Cần, because they're gonna catch the floating market.
Yep.
And that's the narrowness of the imagination of people for so long, and then they just stick with the same thing in Benche, going to this little island, right, and feeding you the same gourami, the giant gourami that you
go to a gulao.
They deep fried it to death, right?
Yep.
And then they, you do that kind of a listening to some folk song, and turn around and come back.
Have a fish.
But the
Delta, the fish?
the fish that's standing up,
Yeah.
fish, the giant gourami.
Is that it?
Yeah. So I think this is do us this service. A lot of the variety and the wealth, the richness of the Delta, in terms of the different type of water, the ecological aspect of that, and then even though the Delta has only 300 years of history, but it's a compounded of some elements of ethnic, right? We have 4 different ethnic building up the Delta. We have the culture that reflect that diversity. We have layers also of different kind of alkaline soil, non-alkaline soil, and each one of them has a special product. For example, some pineapple, take a little bit of salty water to become sweet. It's interesting.
Yep.
Say in King Yang, for example, region of river islands, of many location of villages, whether it's going to be a Catholic villages like Nangu, or the other side of the the Kulao Yin, you find Franciscan convent, or that whole thickness of history has not been looked upon.
Right.
So, secondly, the water culture that is being created by this ethnic group, the hydrology knowledge of the Cambodian is amazing.
So you said there's
Right.
4 ethnicities. So
Cambodian,
Cambodia,
Khmer people, yeah,
Cham,
yeah, Chinese, ethnic
Chinese,
and Vietnamese.
and Vietnamese. Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
So, but then there is an existing thickness of the Khmer Empire in the 9th century, the 10th century, and even, you know, even earlier than that, when the Romans are coming into the region with their galleon.
I want to
and
talk.
then-
I was going to
and
ask
then,
you about that.
They have this seaport right at the delta.
So tell me about that.
Receiving.
So it's called Op Ao, right?
That's right. It's up L. Yeah.
And I've been to Op Ao. So
Right.
so there's a well, it's sort of a small town now, isn't it?
It is a small town, but it used to be a bustling seaport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And-
tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Up L is part of this spreading Khmer kingdom, and during the time of Angkor Bore and during the time of we call it Funam Empire, there is a lot of extensive trading going on, whether by land, by traders, by this commercial group that coming from India, and then by the time they get to the peninsula, Southeast Asia, they're reaching all the way down to the insular region of Indonesia and Malaysia by knowledge of using the monsoon wind. And so clear enough, if you look at the map and you remove you look at from, let's say, from the satellite, and then looking at the Earth picture, for example, you would see that crossroad, or the point between the Pacific Ocean and then the Indian Ocean. It's making the peninsula a key point for trading.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
read during the lockdown and
Right.
during the pandemic,
Right.
I started looking into it,
Yeah.
and I read somewhere that Op Ao, I've got it on the screen here.
Right,
it's
right,
it's
right.
it's
Yeah.
the current name of the village, and it's quite south.
Right.
It's south of Lom Swin,
It's
right? Sort of Lom
It
Swin.
just sit right at the border between Vietnam and Cambodia.
Yeah,
It's-
originally, right?
It's very close.
Yeah.
And if you have this platform, is called lidar, right? And then you kind of scan on the surface, and you still can find, you will find some extensive waterwork hydrology that we developed by
Yeah.
the Khmer Kingdom.
I looked. You
Yeah.
mentioned satellite imagery just before, and when I sort of discovered this town, and
Yeah.
I heard of Funan, I
Right,
learned about
right.
Funan.
Yeah.
I got on Google Maps,
Yeah.
and I zoomed in on the town of Op Ao,
Right.
and I noticed that there's like a moat
That's right.
around
A
sort
moat
of the
surround-
township.
Yeah, around the citadel. And in fact, I think the same knowledge of hydrology is found in Angkor Wat.
Right,
When you look from above
right.
and you see all these barai, which is the diking system. You see this reservoir. At one point in time, the Angkor city can feed up to 1 million people.
Right.
In the 9th century to the 14th century, much bigger and larger than Paris.
Right.
It was
wow.
well advanced, and the hydrology knowledge is fantastic in the way that they regulate. They learn about water. They learn about the movement of water, the rhythm, seasonal rhythm, and they master that kind of 2 crops or 3 crops per year.
Right.
So therefore, if you allow enough water to come in, allow enough sediment to come down, you allow enough, time for the soil to rest, you actually can have a very balanced ecology.
Yep.
Where, the people can subsist, the people can survive.
Well, the other thing that I noticed when I zoomed in on the map,
Yeah.
I zoomed in on the township of Op Ao, and I noticed that there was the the circular sort of moat.
Mhm.
But then I noticed, I don't know if it still exists, but there must be something there that still exists,
Yeah.
and it would have been a canal
Yeah.
that shoots out sort of northeast
Northeast. Exactly.
towards Baray, is it? In current day Cambodia.
Right.
But I also noticed that there's a carving in the ground.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if it's actually a
Well,
moat
if you
or
go to Ốc El, if you go to that part of An Giang province, you still can find, the in situ, the work of Louis Malloret, an archaeologist who dug up the whole region of that. And Louis Malloret can show you extensive activities of a seaport. Louis Malloret can tell you there is enough knowledge, to hold the activities of mercantilism, of trading, of using
with the Romans,
with
back
the
in the
Romans
day.
back then.
Yeah.
And when you dig, sometimes you find Roman coins.
Yeah. There's one in the
in the
Museum of
Yeah.
History. There's in the Museum of History in Saigon. There's a Roman coin on display that got dug up.
Yeah.
In Ốc El.
You see also
Pretty fascinating.
faces and profile of Augustus, of maybe Julius Caesar. You never know. I mean, that is the seafaring skill of the Jam people,
right,
who came from the southern part and then moving up to the mainland Southeast Asia. But unfortunately, they forgot their ocean roots and become land explorer, and land inhabitants.
Yeah.
But it's exciting when you explore. When you find the Delta is so rich in terms of ethnic, in terms of culture, in terms of also the kind of ecology. And then if you look at the changing water by season, and even every single day you have water change twice a day because of the tidal movement. And then every 6 months you move from the dry season to the rainy season. And even in the rainy season, you have a water high rise. We call it mùa nước nổi. 6 months of everything underwater, up to 1 to 4 meters. So you see, you switch from land-based activities, you gotta adjust yourself into water-based activities, right? So therefore, it's rich in terms of that kind of thing. And if you are a weather tourist, you don't want to go to tourist spot and taking selfie. You want to go to understand the thickness, and how these people coexist together, work together, and create this water culture.
I think these sorts of stories haven't been told well enough to promote Vietnam as a tourist destination. And what I was going to say about the satellite map, the Google map that I also saw. So when it shoots out, the canal shoots out to the northeast towards current day Cambodia. There's also in the, I don't know if it's a canal, but there's one that's shaped in the head of Naga, which is like a Naga is almost like a cobra, isn't it?
That is has a little bit of Buddhist roots in there, because the Naga is a protective, celestial animal that can protect you. Well, many part of the river are considered like a serpent that is reflecting the belief. And then next to the Naga, you would see Shiva, you would see Ganesha, you would see also Brahma, and all of that's kind of sculpture. Unfortunately, it went stolen, and sitting in some private
museum somewhere
in some private collection
in France,
the US, and in France. And then when you go to those locations, you say, borrow from the collection of every Brandish or something. But I think it's stolen more than anything else.
I think it's good points. It's something that really needs to be told more often. That the Delta, the Mekong Delta, it's not just inhabited by Vietnamese people.
No,
it's got a very long history of Khmer, Cham.
That's very multicultural. It has also the contribution.
Yep.
It has also the alliance, of all those ethnic together during the time of, people coming.
Yep.
And then even the French has also contribute
Yeah.
because of the hydrology that they bring in,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And well, you got to look at that, and then build up some sort of an image of variety of some kind of thing that you can visit from River Island. You move on to the whole set of temples in the Seven Mountain, which is bordering Cambodia.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And just don't eat the giant gourami because
Yeah.
every single time.
All the spring rolls.
Yeah,
you don't need to have the spring
they
rolls.
give you four spring rolls and then the
Yeah.
giant gourami that you wrap into rice paper and
Yeah.
you're happy.
Yeah.
No way.
But what's the other option though? I mean, if some of these guys go down to the
right
Mekong.
now, I'm developing River Island spot. I have 3 locations.
Oh, nice.
I have two in Travin that you're gonna go into an island.
Yep.
Of somewhat of 60 to 70 acres in area, and you engage in activities of the day of the people who live on that island, people who make food, people who switch from shrimp farming to rice according to the quality of water.
Right.
People who using nature, for example, because of water is brackish, they develop a fishery, and that fishery is based on brackish water.
Right.
So it's quite flexible, that kind. And then if you move on to the adjoining Sok Trăng province, you will see, oh wow, 140 different Khmer temple.
Right.
And
Yeah,
and each of these villages and each of these things exude somewhat, the kind of quality, the kind of culture they have.
Yeah.
And you learn about Theravada Buddhism. And then when you go into the Anyang provinces, now a syncretism of different belief, different popular belief,
Yep.
combined into a local form of Buddhism.
So
And,
you're
so you move from religious travel, you
Yeah.
move from ecological travel, you move from
so no Instagram is allowed.
That's right.
No Instagram.
Yeah.
It's about
It's
cultural
about culture
and
and,
religious and culinary,
yeah.
like the old
That's
days.
right. And then
Yeah.
you look at the variety of different tropical fruit. Oh my God, it's hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And we
Amazing.
just go for jackfruit, and we just go for and some people cannot take durian, of course, but
Yep.
then all of the, but there are a variety.
So
You
did
go
you?
to-
Sorry to cut you off. Did
Yeah.
you say that you're developing some kind of
I'm
tour?
I'm now a special consultant for a cruise company.
Okay. Nice.
Taking
Very nice.
travelers,
Yeah.
from Saigon
Okay.
all the way up to Kampong Cham, 7 days. This beautiful cruise. You go onto this river island.
Oh.
You go to communities.
I'd like to
Yeah,
go on that.
yeah, of
That'd be
course,
pretty
yeah.
good. So when are we going?
It's going to be September because we dock our river boats because of refurbishing it, because of keeping with maintenance and all that. But we start August and then we go all the way until the end of April.
Okay.
Every single year we have 5 cruisers.
Okay.
Yeah, each
So
one has a Mekong Navigator,
Yeah.
Mekong Jewel,
okay.
Mekong Discovery, and all of that. You can enjoy the river. You can enjoy
That sounds
each
really good.
section of the river.
So people can go from Saigon
all the
on
way
the boat.
to Siem Reap, all the way to Siem
all
Reap.
the way to Siem Reap to Angkor Wat.
That's right.
Wow.
We landed. We dock at Kampong Cham, and there a nice bus, very comfortable, will whisk you up to
Okay.
Siem Reap. Then from there, if you want to, you can take the return trip from Siem Reap down back to Saigon,
Yeah, it sounds
or
amazing.
you can fly out from Siem Reap to.
I didn't know you
or
had this
something.
thing going on.
Oh,
you've
yeah.
got your finger in
Yeah,
all
you
sorts
can-
of little.
You can check on Lotus Cruise
Okay.
online.
All right,
and then
there you
you'll
go.
find-
There's a plug.
Yeah, we have our schedule coming out. Pretty
Okay.
soon,
Oh,
yeah.
good. All right. Well, you can send me a link or
Yeah,
something, and
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
share it.
yeah.
And only if I get a free trip.
Mhm.
That sounds really
Well,
good. But
If you could do something like this on
oh, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
on
I'd have
board,
to get
on board.
Skylink though. probably.
That's
I'd have
right.
to get.
At some spot on the river,
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
have a signal.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be enough of those kinds of things
Yeah.
for the Mekong, and I'm similar with you in
Yeah.
that I love the Mekong,
Right.
and I've
Yeah.
for a number of years I've
Mhm.
been thinking about perhaps trying to develop something myself for the
Yeah.
Mekong, but I've always felt like the demand from travelers
Yeah.
is not necessarily there because they keep getting fed the same story.
The same
The
story. Yeah,
Mekong one
exactly.
day trip is all you need to do, and
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah,
Mekong.
yeah.
Whereas,
That's a very short-sighted, you know. I mean, it's
yeah,
just being developed to death, and then the competition among these travel agency who compete, they lower the price because of competition, and thereby the quality
right,
is really
it's a
really
race
bad.
to the bottom,
Yeah,
and
it's really bad
yeah,
because actually if you have a little bit more, you pay for what you know you pay for what you get, and you can stop at places, you can go on to river island, you can spend time bicycle around, and to look closely at the vegetation, at the fauna, at the flora, all of that stuff.
yeah,
We miss it. We just go sign up, from Pham Ngu Lao. They wish you into a big crowded,
yeah.
bus, and then they say, hey, this is the floating market.
But
And that's it.
at the
Yeah.
moment,
Mhm.
what are the other options that apart from your
Yeah.
tour, which
Yeah.
I assume might be more for
I think for
higher end
right,
travelers.
right. It's a little bit pricey.
Yeah,
But what I hope to do is just developing a kind of a reasonable. I mean, the price range, depending on the choice of activities that you want to do, or depend on the location, and depending on how far you want to go.
yeah,
There are choices. There
yeah,
are now far more places, location. For example, you can go all the way down to King Yang, and then you spend the day listening to this, not the whole day, but maybe half a day,
mm,
for him to explain to you how he grow rice, for example.
right,
He bring you out, and then he demonstrate of how he control that water buffalo.
right.
You standing there, you say, hey, look at this big, guy with horns, and listening to this man, and then following, the track and all that. It's pretty nice. And then
Yeah,
when you come in, and he prepare you the rice that he harvested from this,
yeah,
and then you understand also the kind of water they use,
yeah,
what type of length that a rice plant need to grow, and then how they in between waiting for the water to come in and to come out, for example, because you need water,
yeah,
at the beginning, and then you release the water out, and then how are you going to do that? Oh man, I think that's interesting because folks from Australia, folks from United States,
mm,
they don't want to look at Sheraton, they don't want to look at fancy things,
yeah.
or
No,
even go to Fuquoc and find a portion of Venice, of Venice in Fuquoc.
yeah,
It's ridiculous.
yeah,
We could do something like that in Fuquoc, but it with
yep.
Vietnamese taste,
I totally
with
agree.
Vietnamese,
And
lifestyle.
I'll tell you one thing, and what the
Mhm.
professor's talking about in terms of it's like a modern
Mhm.
term for dining
Mhm.
is kind of like farm to plate
Yeah,
kind of thing,
yeah,
but the Vietnamese have been doing it for centuries.
yeah,
And the thing is, when you live here,
yeah.
you look at rice in a different way because
Right.
when you go down to the Mekong,
Yeah.
you see how hard it is
Right.
to grow and the
Right.
amount of
Yeah.
work that goes into it. And I used to leave rice on my plate.
Yeah.
And now, even
Yeah.
to this day, whenever I leave
Yeah.
rice
Yeah.
on my plate and I've
Yeah.
eaten too much, I look at it and I go, oh my God, all the work that's gone into these little pieces of
Exactly.
rice and it's going to end
Exactly.
up in the bin.
That's
You
right.
know, it's like, oh, it's a massive
it's
guilt
it's
trip.
it's 90 days. It's 90 days of
Right.
constant monitoring of how they grow. And you see, there is, the whole bunch of problem that the farmers have to deal with, whether it's, locusts, a whole bunch of them coming in and, taking on your rice field, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Or even rats, field rats coming in and, take advantage.
Speaking of rats, they're very tasty down in
That's right.
Sadek. Last time I
Down
went
in
to
Dong
Sadek,
Kap. Yeah,
they're
down in
very
Dong Kap,
good.
yeah.
Tasty
Yeah.
rat. I
So-
have a video on
Yeah,
it.
so during the rainy season, rat were being trapped into some little mound, that protruding from this extensive, water
Yeah.
covering, and then rat run into some place, a drier place to hide, and then to dig tunnels and all that, and they coming in and they harvest these guys. Yeah. So it is a diet that shifted, either from crustacean, shifted to fish, and shifted to rice, and shifted to back to fish,
Yep.
and shifted. So that's kind of thing that would be interesting if you have this homestay that
Yes,
we train people to tell you,
100%.
to show you.
Well, there are some homestays
That's
down
right,
there,
now,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I haven't stayed in one for a while. Mel and I went down
Mhm.
a few years ago, just after COVID, and through someone, I'm not too sure who it was, but there was a connection or something like that, and we found a place in Benchair,
Right.
which is not too far from here, quite a quick drive. But you know what Benchair's like. You
Yeah.
can, as soon as you get off the main highway, and there's a network of canals already, and you feel like you're on another planet.
Right.
And he had a really nice little homestay on one of
Yeah,
the canals
yeah.
there.
There are quite a
And-
few now.
Yeah,
In Travin, there is Sun Seer, which is a Cambodian one, and he bring out how he developed this using coconut, to develop this product, right?
right.
And then when you go to Sóc Trăng, you have in Cù Lao Dung, you have Apsara, and then when you go into Vĩnh Long, you have Coco Riverside. So those locations, now are being set up,
Yep.
and we hope that the training will go along with the development, and at the same time also, like in France or in Europe, in Italy, for example, the extra fruit growth could be fermented, and they create this eau de vie, for things. And here in Vietnam, we have a surplus of dragon fruit, or we have a surplus of whatever. We throw them, and the poor peasant, they work hard, and
Yeah.
they don't have it, and, any kind of help and support from the government.
Yep.
And those are the kind of thing that in the future of the Mekong Delta, it's really need to be a boost, in terms of investment, a boost in terms of people who try to develop new things there, a boost in terms of bringing education to train the population in a way that they can stay on the on the ground, and not moving up to Dong Nai, not moving up to Bình Dương, and then leaving the Delta. So the Delta right now is facing those kind of problems: depopulation, out migration, salinization, salt intrusion, desalinization, sand mining, and
that
of
was
course,
one I was going to mention.
So
Yeah.
all of those kind of things is a kind of a set of challenges that the Mekong Delta is facing.
I was going to say, for how are you going for time? Are you okay?
It's all right. Yeah.
You okay?
A few more minutes.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, for tourists going to the Mekong,
Yeah.
getting them there has
Right.
always been a bit tricky, and
Right.
it's not very enjoyable, is it?
Right.
But things are improving.
Yeah.
Is that one of the major hurdles, do you think, for tourists
Major hurdle
seeing
because
the
in
Mekong?
the old days there is a rice route. There is a rice road coming from the delta using waterways, and the canal of Bảo Lĩnh, and then the canal of Chợ Gạo was well dredged, and
Right.
well maintained.
Okay.
And so you can you can do this kind of
Wow.
route. And then we just let it sliding, because when you have the force of ocean from both sides coming in, and then they create this kind of a, they call it, the French call it, the back of a donkey. So alluvial or sediment being pushed from this side, and you block, the channel.
Right.
When your boat arriving at that port, it's no longer you can, because and so no plan. There was no,
So people
study
used to go straight from Saigon via this
via
particular.
this mountain, and then via.
And how long did it take to say get to
When
Benche?
you get to Benche, it's about 3 hours.
Okay, wow,
Yeah.
on a boat.
And then
Amazing.
no stoplight.
Yeah, no
then
stuff, no big trucks, no big
no
buses.
traffic jam, right?
No.
Or maybe you got horn to the guy. You say, "Hey, you wave him because one barge coming back, one barge coming down." Yeah. So I mean, it's a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah, there is a lot,
Yeah.
but hopefully you can tap that, and
I
hopefully I can too.
Single-handedly, I mean, I'm facing with a lot of these kind of challenges myself, my age, and then my mobility, and then
Yeah,
my
we're all
But
starting to
anyway,
feel that, aren't we?
all,
But
I'm
you're
I'm
fine.
helping.
You.
I'm helping.
Yeah. I think you're doing a lot.
Yeah.
Just before the professor leaves us, are there any questions in the chat for him? Let us know. He's here for about another minute or two. Then he has to go off and probably have dinner, I'd say. So if you've got any questions, please drop them there now. And then I think, Mel, did you want to jump on? We go a little bit longer? No? I can go a little bit longer anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see if we've got any questions. But usually what I do is the next day I'll go through the video.
Okay.
And then I usually put chapters on it because I actually get quite a few viewers after the fact.
Yeah.
I have a few loyal viewers who are watching now, who watch every week, which is great. But there's sometimes there's questions after the fact. But
eventually, when times permit, we can do another.
Yeah, we can.
Mekong number 2, Mekong number 3.
Yeah, for sure. No worries. It's been a pleasure.
We look
Thanks
at
for
the water culture. We look at the different kind of ecology relating to the water culture. Things. Yeah.
We actually didn't really talk about a lot of the stuff that I'd planned. I said before we went live that I had about 30 questions for him, but that's okay. I guess that means that we can do it again another time. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to us, and I hope that some of my information can be helpful. But then we promise, we say, and we will come back at some point, and then we provide you some more ideas and some more information.
For sure. Before you go, we've got one question.
Yes.
How much would the tour cost in September? That's Vu.
The tour with Lotus Cruise would anywhere from almost $2,000, like $1,700. That's the lowest one. All the way to the luxury. You have a suite. You have a view right at the bow.
Is that like one of those big paddle?
It's like a paddle boat, like a
on the Mississippi or something like that.
What's his name there? In the US, those riverboats.
Yeah.
Tom Sawyer,
like the Proud Mary
Tom
and stuff
Sawyer,
like that.
whatever.
Yeah. Okay, nice.
But
so
this
it's
one,
pretty flash.
That is pretty flashy. You being pampered because of the food was selected and it's reflecting local market, and then you have been escorted onto these stops, and there will be translators, and then there will be performances. And sometimes they got a guy like me, keeping you after
entertained
and telling you about a bit of history, a bit of ecology, a bit of water culture, and all that.
Well, that sounds amazing. And we've got Bees. Bees is from Scotland, and she's here all the time. She hasn't.
Check with Lotus Cruise. I think they're online.
Okay, I'll put a link to it or something.
Yeah. No, they have the website. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me know your particular tour, so then I can leave it for these guys. And Bees, she's from Scotland, and she joins the live stream, and she said the cruise sounds amazing, Professor Chuong. It would be very interesting indeed.
Oh, you would love it. I think so. Yeah.
But I'm not too sure that she'll be here at that time. But maybe Vu. Vu's Vietnamese Australian.
Yeah.
He looks like he might be interested.
Okay.
But,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So they will be very happy to provide you with a brochure and the whole scheduling. for the whole year.
Otherwise, they can do my tour, which is
Okay.
in a canoe.
That's right. That's right.
And a bicycle.
Then right, you sit on,
and they can
that's
eat
right.
that fish,
That's
whatever
right.
that fish is. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Thanks for your
it's
time
welcome.
again.
Okay.
Yeah. And see you again
Yeah,
soon.
nice
I
to,
might just stay on for a little bit longer, maybe another half an hour. And Mel doesn't want to join me on this one. She's got a Vietnam flag on. Do you want to join, Mel? Yeah. Thank you, Professor. Just watch your feed. Yeah. Just watch. Let me just check the battery on the camera before we continue. Before Mel, our second guest comes on. Not second guest, second guest. Okay, the battery looks pretty good at the moment.
You have to change the banner to Matt and Matt.
Oh yeah, I do.
Otherwise,
I
I'm not
do.
gonna
All
jump
right.
in. Demanding.
Add banner. Just bear with me, guys.
Here we go.
Hang on. I'm not sure how to do it. I think I need to get rid of one. Add banner. Hang on. Create banner. Here we go. Okay. All right. So thanks for joining, guys. Professor Chuong, he's very interesting and he's got a lot to tell us. So hopefully, yeah, we'll get him back another time and hopefully on that cruise boat. The boat sounds pretty good, doesn't it? And second guest for today, she doesn't really need too much of an introduction. Do you? Do you need a special?
That's my lipstick.
Yeah, you look pretty good. What are we going to talk about? Here's Mel.
Hey.
I think it's the first time on the live stream officially.
First time for people to actually see what I look like.
Oh, no, but I think they would have seen you anyway.
Yeah,
around.
maybe.
But yeah, you say that, but you've got like a hat on that you kind of look like you're going to rob a house or something like that. You look like a
I'm not
gangster.
I wasn't really planning on going
No.
live.
Well,
so.
I sort of didn't really want to sit here by myself
and
after that.
enjoy the
After-
view
Yeah,
by
after,
yourself.
after talking to the professor.
Very interesting.
Yeah, he's very interesting. A little bit of background. I think we met him before the pandemic. We used to go to a cafe and we were introduced by a mutual friend, and he was telling me a lot about what he does and his background and stuff like that. So we've kept in touch, and I run into him still every week.
At the coffee
Every
shop.
week at the coffee shop, I probably see him 2 or 3 times a week. So,
what were the
that's really
things
cool.
that you wanted to talk about that you weren't able to talk about?
About the Mekong?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I can talk about them.
I'm not sure if I have any answers
I think
for
it
you.
was more sort of questions or topics for the guys watching who are thinking about coming here and what sort of challenges they might face going to the Mekong, because as we talked about a little while ago, I think are you going? Yeah. Thank you. No. You can just go. You can. I mean that in a nice way.
Bye.
At the coffee shop. Yeah.
At Sky.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Good.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
The professor just
He just left the
stepped
building.
out.
The
Yeah.
professor just left the building.
Mel in her t-shirt is giving me gangster.
So yeah, I think the things that I was going to talk about. I'm just keeping an eye on the screen there for the battery, so for when I change,
That's
when
fine.
I need to change it.
Okay.
It was sort of more things for viewers thinking about going to the Mekong, because when people come to Vietnam or when they're doing their planning, of course, a lot of the stuff that turns up on searches is your big ticket places like
Hoi
Hanoi.
An.
Yeah, Hoi An. Mel's just
Hanoi.
come back from Hoi An, actually. I
Yeah.
think I noticed that you guys were chatting a little bit about it. And she came back with a big smile on her face. She was very happy. I'm a little bit indifferent with Hoi An.
Look, it's I did a girls trip, So obviously, my girlfriends haven't been to Hoi An. So it was an itinerary that I think my demographic, hashtag White Lotus demographic, it's a TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that we would like to do. But bringing back that same concept to the Mekong, I think that it has a lot of potential. When I first came to Vietnam, I did a Mekong tour, as you do, just a day trip.
Yeah.
And one of the highlights was riding a boat that kept becoming smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And did you do the same?
Yeah, I think so. I think I did we took a boat over to one of the islands and we went and tried honey and
And
coconut candy and stuff like that.
I mean, that's classic tourist trap, I guess. But if you had an option, and you know what the professor was saying about a more cultural aspect to understanding and enjoying the Mekong, I think that would appeal to a certain demographic. I'm not sure if Instagrammers, young people. Do I sound bad? Like I sound like a tita, you know. This is like a Filipino thing of
Yeah, no, I don't think
being
I don't think
an
it's
older person.
I think what you see on Instagram with the Mekong is from those day trips. Essentially,
Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah,
So, like
yeah.
what the professor was saying, there's 4 sort of ethnicities that are down in the Mekong that have
Mhm.
been there for centuries, and as soon as you go beyond those day trip destinations, that's
There's
when
so much more.
the faces change. So
Yes.
obviously they look different, and they look very different from the dominant population, which is the
The
Kin.
kin. Yep.
Yeah, so that's really interesting in itself. Just watching people watching as well.
Look, I remember asking you the other day. I was asking Matt, what's the difference between Cham and Khmer, right?
Mm.
And it's like these little details.
Yeah, they're
you
very
know?
different.
They're very different.
Yeah.
You think that because they came from a certain region, they're all the same. But aside from the facial features, their food, their way of life, their religion, even the arts and crafts. See,
Yep.
this is what I would love to see. Is that okay? It might sound like a tourist trap, but I would like some kind of I like these things.
Yeah.
I'd like little
Well, I think the main
little
difference
crafts.
the main difference that I can see immediately with, say, a trip to Hoi An and a trip into the Mekong is that for your trip to Hoi An,
Yeah.
it was like door to door. So it was like leave our place, go to the airport, get on a plane, and then get a transfer to Hoi An. Very easy. The Mekong's a different, dare I
Animal.
say, kettle of fish. It's very rustic. The infrastructure is still getting built. There's a lot of bridges and freeways and roads and stuff like that are getting built, but everything moves pretty slowly down there, and there are much. It's not set up like Hoi An,
But it has the potential of being the next Hoi An. Are we going to claim it here? Let's claim it.
The Mekong.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, what do you think, guys? The Mekong is going to be the next Hoi An.
I think.
Okay, give it 10 years. I mean, we're not saying in
Well,
September.
I think that the downside of it as well is that there's no beach, and so
No, but the river.
But-
You've got.
yeah, the rivers are amazing.
Yeah.
For sure. But
I mean, if you can section a certain part of the river where you don't feel that it's gonna, take you along, because you can do that. You can cordon off with bamboos and nets a particular part of the riverfront where your hotel would be, and do some swimming, like with those floating tires.
I think
that would be great.
for that to happen, for the Mekong to become this place that could even think about being on par with Hoi An, would be some serious marketing that educates people about
I mean,
the place.
There is a Mekong tourism board, I guess. I mean, Hoi An.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
I mean, in the last 2 or 3 years, you don't really hear the word Hoi An anymore. It's like Quang Nam tours,
Quang Nam.
visit Quang Nam, and
Yeah.
it's like, you know, they're trying to push that, and they're trying to get that tagline out there, but it does take time. Going back to the Mekong, I feel that there really it has a potential to have things like a farm to table concept. So when I went to Hoi An, I went to 2 restaurants, Mua and Tok, and they and of course Red Red Bridge cooking school. And so those 3 places that I went to with my girlfriends, the food that we ate and the food that we cooked, they all came from the garden that is within their vicinity. You have the Mekong Delta with the rice
Yeah.
fields and the river, and you can fish.
Yeah.
And
But
it's
there's
just,
sort of
you know,
they're things that we love doing, and so we're you know, I would love to go down there tomorrow, for example, you know, but for international travelers,
Yeah.
who want a little bit of, you know, they're going on holiday, so they're looking for a little bit of comfort a lot of the time, and so
True.
for me, the Mekong doesn't really represent
It's too rustic.
comfort.
Okay.
You know, it's so, but that'll develop, and I think Rabbit is talking about here. He's talking about there's talk and a want
In
for
Khao Mau,
for
yep.
investment
Yep.
in a metro. And there was actually a train line to Mito back in the day. That was one of 2 lines when the French were here, and they put in 2 train lines. One was to Mito, and the other one, of course, what still remains today, that goes all the way up to Hanoi.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, I think, you know, I think just getting people there, they're investing in the airports now. I think I did a video on it recently about how much is getting invested in airports.
Speaking of airports, Terminal 3 was really good. There were no, you know, leaks in the roof as previously reported.
the new terminal,
Yeah.
the new domestic terminal,
good.
pretty good. Didn't
Um,
slip into any cracks or
No.
trip.
And
or
the
anything.
food was actually, you know, camera, battery.
Here we go. I've got a just wait on, guys. I've got a
We've got
you can
a
keep
shot.
you can keep talking,
Yep.
Mel.
We've got a shot of the city. We should really take a photo of this one and put it there. Yeah. So talking about Terminal 3, the new Terminal 3 at Tan Son Nhat Airport. So it's mostly domestic, and yeah, it's pretty flash, so huge. I don't know. I can't say a bad thing. There's food. Yeah. No, I'm just, you know, trying to balance the opinion. They have a lot of shops where, you know, obviously gifts, last minute gifts, coffee. I remember seeing a well, not big brand coffee brands, you know, but just coffee shops. Wi-Fi is free, and well, there is a vegetarian restaurant at the very end. So I think it was at Terminal 16. So yeah. So if you are traveling and you want to eat and you are a vegetarian, then head off to somewhere in not Terminal 16, Gate 16 at the Terminal 3 Tan Son Nhat Airport, and you will find yourself a good place to have your vegetarian food. Well, there are travelers who are vegetarians and vegans, and so, you know, just
Hey, we're back. We're back.
You're cutting me off, meat eater.
Rabbit says Terminal 3 is very good, so he
Yeah.
agrees. He agrees. That's good.
Agree.
It's good that they've got a really nice terminal there. Looking
Mhm.
forward to the new international terminal, maybe next year. I don't know, but I don't know. How are we going to get there? How are we going to get to that new airport? Bees has got something here. Is there going to be a high-speed train from north to south in the future? I think they're trying to do that. They're trying to get money from somewhere to do that. It would be amazing. I think apart from getting the funding for that, I think another issue that they have problems with is what do you call it? Relocating
Where
villages and
yeah,
townships
yeah.
and stuff like that. I think they had a few problems with the new airport location. It took a while.
Couldn't they just follow the
I think they
the
would.
reunification line?
Yeah, but it's only one track
True.
in most places. I think. Oh well, I think it's only one track in most places. So they would have to widen it, I suppose, and then put in maybe new, or it may take a different route. I don't know.
So I've never been to Japan. So is that the bullet train in Japan? Is it only one line, or is it like
No, there's
lines?
multiple.
Multiple
There's a
lines.
lot. Yeah, yeah.
In just one spot, or like in different? Is it spread out?
I'm not sure, but it covers the whole country.
Yeah, but that would be amazing if we had something like
Yeah,
that.
I think just Vietnam would really only need that sort of one high-speed train. It'd be amazing. Laos has one, and
but nobody
Indonesia.
travels to Laos, though.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Laos has one now, and Indonesia, I think, has them. They're Chinese backed, so I think a lot of the in terms
Investors.
of it being getting investors in Vietnam, I think there's a reluctance to have a Chinese invested one. So I think that there probably would have been one here a long time ago if that was something that they wanted.
Yeah.
Vu? Vu. No. I haven't got my
NO.
license yet. I went to our local post office last week, and of course, the first question she asked me was, "Is there a tracking code for it?" And I said, "Yeah, you're right. No, I don't have one." And she just said, "Look, I can't help you with that." So I have no idea where it is.
When it will get here?
I have up to 90 days
to make a complaint.
No, until I
need to get a photo again.
No, it'll expire if I don't contact them in 90 days. They'll assume that I've got it.
Okay.
And after 90 days of issuance, and I haven't got it, I'll have to go through the whole process again. So I'll have to fill out all the documents and all that sort of stuff.
At this point, I think you should just go back and visit.
I don't know.
Australia.
I asked the lady at the local post office here. I asked her, how long I should wait for stuff to come from Australia, and she said at least a month. So it's been 4 to 5 weeks now. So I think it's worth me just sitting on it for another week or so.
Vu says my friend still hasn't got his card.
What card's that?
That he sent from Saigon, like a postcard.
Yeah. I knew, at this end, things are pretty slow. I realize that. And I've received clothing and stuff before and packages from Australia, but I'm getting pretty desperate now. I'm getting a real serious case of cabin fever and itchy feet.
I don't chain you up. You have a key to the door?
No, I know, but I want to do it on a motorbike. I don't want to do it, on a bus or I don't, the motorbike allows me to go off the beaten trail a bit. So I'm prepared to sort of wait around a bit longer before I totally lose my shit. And so Matt, I meant to say to you before to put Vietnam time on your posts for your live.
Okay. Thanks for that,
also.
Bees. Yep.
Oh, yeah. I thought I usually put Vietnam time. Anyway. Yeah, all right. Thanks, Bees. Yeah, I'll do that. I think this time slot is okay. It's pretty good for us because It's now a little bit cooler. It's an absolutely sensational day, by the way.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be rainy season, and there's not really a cloud in the sky.
Nope.
It's absolutely beautiful. We've got a fan on us. I don't know if it's blowing through the mic.
No, audio is pretty good earlier.
Here we go. Rabbit, don't chain Matt up, Mel. Start gently with Fairy. Yeah. That's a good one. Yes. Actually, I was in your neck of the woods the other day, Rabbit. My niece was here. So she's only 21, and it's what does a 50-year-old do with their knee? What do I show them? So I took her out, her and her friend out for dinner. We went to a Vietnamese place for dinner. They enjoyed that. And then I took them over to your neck of the woods, took them to the backpacker area.
Is it as loud as it was?
It was super loud. That it had been raining, or it was raining when we got there. So it was pretty quiet. It was a Tuesday night, ladies' night. But there wasn't really anyone walking around too much at that point in time. So we went to a place and
is there anything
people
new
watched.
There's
a lot of new stuff, but I felt quite out of place. And I was with my niece and her young friend as well, so had a couple of beers and I said I'll be on my way. So I think I left them about 9:30 and I'd pretty much had enough. 2 or 3 beers.
But that was a weekday. Do they still close the street?
No,
is it a walking street?
I think it's only Friday, Saturday night. Maybe Sunday night as well. I don't know, Rabbit, you'd be able to tell us. And let me see. Vu. Reminder to myself not to send you. Don't send it. Yeah.
Licorice.
Yeah. Don't
via
do that.
postage. Yeah.
I thought for a second he was saying that he's not going to send me anything.
All right.
Yeah. So what else have we got? We've got to do. Rabbit says we've got to do beers. Yes. Yeah. We'll do it one of these days. When I've got nothing on the next day, I need time. I need
time to recover and
or start early and go home. Daytime beers and go home early. What else have we got?
Rabbit says the street locking is very infrequent. It's not very busy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He says that. Oh, okay.
In the fam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it says 10:30, so I think it might be a bit confusing for people from different countries that want to tune in. I don't really know why it says 10:30 though, because when I set it up, I say 4:30.
Okay.
What time is it?
What
time is 4:30 in Scotland, Bees? Because maybe
is there daylight savings, or that could be?
Because at my end, I thought at least that I always put it at 4:30 Vietnam time. So not too sure, because I'm using StreamYard as well. So maybe there's some kind of confusion with it there.
Maybe.
Yeah. Rabbit says that.
So in Australia, it's 9 p.m. and in Scotland, it's 10:30. Wow, we have such a.
It's 10:30 now, or 10:30 when we started.
When we started.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe outside of Vietnam, it changes the time on it.
But maybe you can just put in the description, that's a good tip. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. All right. We'll try that. Rabbit, it's not very busy at the moment. Yeah, it isn't. Yeah, I noticed that. What is it?
It's summer holidays. No one's here.
No, but what about international tourists? Are there many here? I don't know. I always find it hard to gauge how many are here, because obviously I'm not staying at touristy places, Here we go. Here's another pressing question from Vu. What's for dinner today, Matt and Mel? I don't know.
Leftover chicken.
Oh yeah, we bought
salad.
a chicken. We bought a chicken yesterday, and we probably should eat that. Yeah. That's our Sunday night for us, and a little bit of YouTube, I guess. I don't know.
All right.
Oh, you wrapping it up? You can go if you want.
How many mosquito bites do you have now?
Day beers, an early finish. I'm older than you. Okay, sounds good to me. Yep. I quite like hanging out with people older than me these days because usually it's with people who are younger. Everyone's younger these days than me, so it's nice to hang out with an oldie, isn't it? You know, and wrap things up.
You know, sharing lessons in life.
Yeah. B, stop trying to lead him astray. Yes, Rabbit, I think he's an old hand at leading people astray. But good to know that he's pretty keen to finish up early.
Rabbit is your guide dog
Yes.
to adulting.
Yes, to being a good adult. Yes. And Vu, I had Bun Tit Nung. What? Did your mum make that?
Is Vu only 22?
No. He thinks he is.
Okay.
He thinks he is. I think he's about 42, aren't you, Vu? You're about that.
Bun Tit Nung.
Yeah, haven't had that for a while. Would be pretty good, wouldn't it? So what did you think of the professor?
Well, he's very knowledgeable. It's like, you know...
you'd hope your professor was knowledgeable, wouldn't you?
No, but also everything that you mentioned or said or asked, you know, there's an automatic answer, and it's not just about, you know, the past. Like the professor is studies history, but he's very knowledgeable about what's happening at present in the Mekong, and he's also very forward looking for a, you know.
Yeah, I don't know how old he is.
He
was born in Viet Nam. He was born in the Mekong Delta. And then sometime, I think, no, actually maybe even before. Oh, no. I saw somewhere that he'd lived in the States for 50 years. So he must have gone around about the time or just before the end of the war. And then he's been back for a few years since he's been back nearly 10 years.
He's retired,
yeah.
but he does guest lectures and he accompanies Australian, well, not only Australian, but recently he accompanied some Australian researchers in the Mekong.
Yeah.
And he does talks and he goes on.
He does tours as well, apparently. Yeah, pretty amazing.
He slipped it in there.
All right. Cool. So you're pretty keen to go and eat. I think Mel's pretty keen to go and to wrap this up.
This is a great location. We might just do this.
This is really nice here. It's really nice. Okay, we've got another one here. Oh, sorry, wrong one.
Dog ears.
That one just jumped in. Vu, have you noticed many foreigners coming to live in Vietnam?
Not as much as before. I think what's happening is that the workforce is matured. There's more graduates coming out, or there's more Vietnamese Americans, Vietnamese Australians coming back, French Vietnamese coming back.
We also live in an area now that has kind of become less popular. So I think our part of Phu My Hung has become less of a place to live since the neighbourhood not far away from here, Midtown, has popped up. So
we're in the Tan Phong ward.
Yeah.
Now everybody is in Midtown.
Yeah, so we don't tend to see a lot of foreigners around unless they're Korean. We're sort of in the Korean part of town. So, yeah, it would be really hard. It's hard for me to say.
But I guess
who's coming to work here.
I guess if you were living in District 2, you would still see a steady flow of expats.
Well, I was going to say if you were living in District 2 or the old District 2 around
it's not called District 2 anymore.
Tao Dien. You'd probably notice, but not where we live.
No.
It's mostly Vietnamese or Korean. It's traditionally a Korean enclave, and also there's quite a lot of wealthy Vietnamese people that live there as well in the gated communities. Bees, she says it was a brilliant interview with the professor.
Yeah.
It was so interesting. I hope it was.
I don't know why you've never interviewed him before. I mean, with the podcast and articles. On
Yeah.
the Bureau
Yeah, I
of
never really
Asia
got him on the
website.
podcast. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
know that I have a podcast, but I haven't done it for a while.
Well, we'll definitely edit this one and put it there.
Yeah,
right?
I'm recording it, but
Yeah.
I don't know, it might be more work for me it might need an edit, and I don't know if, plus I want to continue doing I want to get back into doing more videos, so that takes a lot of time, and that's why the live videos are good, because I don't need to edit. And I don't know what the lag's like. Looks like there's a bit of a lag there today, but
I used the boats as reference earlier.
I'm assuming that the audio should be better because because it's not wireless.
Plus, it's got
it's connected
cool
straight
mic.
to the laptop, so it should be better today. But we're a little bit constrained by the quality
Wi-Fi.
of the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Vu, I have 3 friends getting ready to move to Vietnam next year, and
Ooh,
they're
how
white
fun.
Australian. Oh no,
Good luck.
they're white.
Uh,
We don't need them. We don't need any more of them. No. Oh, that's good. Good to know. They're probably going to come here and teach, I'm guessing, by that. But yeah, you should, Vu, get them to watch our live stream. And if they got any questions.
B has an interesting comment. I think a lot of people are ready to leave their countries, Vu.
Yeah. I hear, everyone wants to move to this part of the world, I think.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I don't know.
Well, I live in this part of the world, and I crossed latitudes.
People keep asking me about, whether I'll move back to Australia and stuff like that. And, or sometimes they say, oh, you don't want to go back. You don't want to go back to Australia.
Yeah.
Things are crap now, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to comment on that because I've been here for so long now, and this is home. So for now, at least. Anyway, Vietnam is where it's at. Well, I hope so.
This is Matt's Vietnam Life.
I don't know if it's where it's at Matt's Vietnam. I'm not sure if he meant that, but Vietnam's got a lot going for it, for sure. Things are pretty good. Everything's pretty stable at the moment. Living costs are pretty good.
Yeah.
We haven't really noticed anything.
There was a little bit of that COVID scare, but I think
it was sort
gone.
of creeping into the media again, wasn't it?
But it was just like 2 weeks, and then it was done.
I've got a feeling that it was something that the media wanted to talk about, because I check the news every day, of course.
But it's gone now, that threat.
Yeah, but what I was going to say was that most of the time there's nothing really newsworthy that's in the news, so I feel like when this sort of supposed new COVID outbreak happened, that they wanted to write about something.
There's always like unfortunate motorcycle accidents, mostly involving foreigners.
And there's a few.
The one that went over the wall.
Oh, that was down in the Mekong, actually. Yeah, that was. But generally speaking, I think I saw something about Thailand. Someone, Vu asked about Thailand before.
Vu is.
I'm scrolling here somewhere. It was something about
why aren't people changing the subject?
Maybe write it again, Vu, if you're still watching. But it was something about Thailand and why numbers in Thailand have gone down. I watch a lot of Thailand stuff. But I've always thought with these sorts of numbers in countries like Vietnam and Thailand that you probably should take them with a grain of salt. Especially with Thailand, given that it's a hub. The Suvarnabhumi airport there is a hub. A lot of people fly into Bangkok and then go elsewhere.
The islands.
Plus, there's probably a lot of people who live in Thailand who do what a lot of people in Vietnam do. A lot of foreigners in Vietnam.
Retire?
No, they do that. But renewing they're doing visa runs.
Visa runs.
So that, I would imagine, would clock up a fair few
Visitors.
visits to the country.
But also Thailand is a hub. Like I remember before when we went to Australia, we picked Thailand as a
Yeah,
stopover.
I think Thai
So-
Airways was, we flew Thai Airways, so
Yes,
I think
we
it was
did.
cheaper,
Yeah.
or there was a good deal on.
Yeah.
But also Thailand is just coming out of its low season, or it's in its low season at the moment anyway, because it's rainy season. Australia is a big market for Thailand, and I don't think it's holidays at the moment in Australia, school holidays. I think the Australian school holidays might be moving in sort of the higher Australian tourist season, if that's what you want to call it. The inbound tourism season is probably more July, August maybe, and also end of the year, because obviously it's winter in Australia in July, so maybe we'll see a pickup in Thailand numbers soon.
Rabbit agrees. The entry number for Vietnam
Have to be massively
Yes,
affected by
by
visa
visa
run
run.
re-entries.
Yes.
Yeah. And also perhaps that, that topic that comes up a lot of the time, they talk about why don't people come back to Vietnam? So maybe they can use those numbers to say, people are returning to Vietnam more and more.
But I think the reason why people don't return to Vietnam is because when they do visit Vietnam, they do like a top to bottom or bottom to top.
The thing
like
is, I don't know whether...
they finish, like they go all over the country and do everything for like a month and then leave and then never come back.
But I don't know the numbers on that. I don't know if anyone knows. How do they measure? They can obviously measure the return rate, but and I guess compare it with the number of people who come. But I just don't know. I don't know how. What's the word?
Okay, well,
true those numbers are. Let me just get my glasses. Keep going.
okay. I guess we can research that later on.
Well,
But yeah,
I don't know.
I do wonder though if well, obviously everything is electronic and people get tracked coming in and going out. Maybe there's a threshold, like do they count just an entry 24 hours or 48 hours?
I think it's just as soon as they clock in, they're in the system. But sometimes I feel like because everyone compares Vietnam in the media here,
to
Thailand, and it's such it's a more mature travel market. People have been going to Thailand for so long. It's better set up for traveling, generally speaking. There's a love affair with Thailand. There's a lot of things to do. So I'm just wondering whether that's a bit of a sort of a fallacy that people don't want to come back to Vietnam. It definitely isn't like Thailand where people want to get a villa and maybe go to Thailand for a week.
There's loads of reasons to come back to Thailand. Like, for example, concerts. I noticed that a lot of my colleagues at work, younger, maybe 10, 15 years, they have gone to Singapore. Like in the last 2 years, they've gone to Singapore, KL, and Thailand just to follow the concerts, like your Lady Gaga and your
they have those
Black
big events.
Pink,
That's a good point.
And your Coldplay, all these singers and
Big
bands,
international
performances and sporting events like Formula One.
We don't have any of that.
No,
apart from
we
the
don't
odd
have the infrastructure.
DJ, the odd international DJ that gets paid for by a big real estate company. Or
Ariana Grande was here in Vietnam a couple of years back, but she actually canceled her concert. Remember, you bought a ticket for the girls' charity house?
But I think what happens with those...
it got canceled because rumor has it, well, she said that she...
Didn't she split up with a boyfriend or something?
No, rumor had it that, she the press release was she was sick. But actually, when you went there and you saw the videos that were online and some of the testimonials, they couldn't fill the stadium. So there was something in her contract that said it had to be filled like
That's
3/4 of
right.
the way.
But
Otherwise, she won't sing.
But she left it to like the 11th hour.
Because they were waiting
They were
for
putting the
last-minute
scaffolding
ticket.
and lighting up.
Yes.
And people were actually going into the venue,
They
and
were
then
still
she
hoping.
cancelled. Yeah.
They were still hoping that, they would sell tickets.
But what typically happens with live acts like that, big live act. Hang on, we've got to chat about bees first. Big live acts like that, like companies like, say, Sun Group or Vin Group or whatever, they will sponsor an entire event. So, a couple of years ago in Phu Quoc, they had Maroon 5.
Yeah.
They performed there one night only. We saw the Chainsmokers.
Yeah.
Not that was by chance. We don't listen to their stuff, but they're actually quite popular here. And that was a free concert for everybody. I don't know if guess the government put it on. I don't know.
I know it was.
But it was it was down Le Loi Street.
That's right. They closed out the road.
B says it's funny how the world is on the move compared to 10 or 15 years ago. So many countries are packed with tourists now.
Barcelona wants to kick out their tourists.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like, there's obviously social media's had an impact where you can access flights. You don't go to, I don't know, not many people go to a travel agency anymore.
Apps.
Yeah, and then the increase in budget airlines, they come and go, but there's always a budget airline that you can jump on to go somewhere.
But I guess also general knowledge of the world, or the lack of knowledge of the world, people do want to explore.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was growing up in the Philippines, the word backpacker wasn't really like floated, in my area. I actually didn't see a lot of tourists unless you were staying in a posh resort.
In Hoi An.
No, in the
When
Philippines.
was this? Oh, right,
Philippines.
yeah.
Growing up.
The Philippines is another case again, isn't it? Like I've mentioned plenty of times about the Philippines, that I, as a young kid growing up, I never thought I'd go to the Philippines, because the only stuff that we saw, was on the news, and it was kidnappings in Mindanao, and also the traffic and stuff like that, and the odd bomb that went off in Manila. But things have changed. So, case in point how your life can take a turn. Rabid, there's a league table of entry visits in Southeast Asia, and the figures are very open to interpretation.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case, because I guess it looks good, doesn't it? Yeah. It looks good if your country's showing an increase in arrivals or re-entries and stuff like that, and it's like, we're doing a good job.
But that's like one-sided. Yeah.
Here we go. Here's something. Joshua 10. Thanks, Josh, for tuning in. Nothing compared to Thailand. I had my best holiday so far in Vietnam. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Yeah. Let us know where you went. Let us know your highlights, and if you've got any tips for, I don't know if you were a newcomer to Vietnam or not, or maybe even just a couple of really obvious comparisons that you notice between traveling to Thailand and traveling to Vietnam. One thing that I keep hearing in the media and in Facebook groups and stuff like that is complaints about the visa process. But I've had,
my friend did quickly.
Yeah, I've had quite a few friends come this year.
My nephew came.
My niece didn't even mention it.
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's people who
are not internet savvy.
Yeah, they're not sort of used to that sort of thing, and they kind of screw things up. I don't know. But everyone I've asked this year, they've said, there's been no problem. And they're like, okay, there's been a bit of a wait at immigration, but they don't dwell on it. They move on pretty quickly. So yeah, thanks Josh for that one. What else have we got here? Westlife. Oh yeah, it did. I think that was in Hanoi though. I think it was
how
only
about
in
Michael
Hanoi.
Learns to Rock?
Michael Learns to Rock came.
The thing is, the groups that come to Vietnam to do a concert, they're like 20 years behind.
Yeah. Or
Now,
we
if
just
if Robbie Williams comes, I'm definitely gonna watch.
Yeah, I don't think he will. I don't think he will. Who else has been anyone really like super huge? Don't know, but these days it's mostly DJs, you know. So I'm out of the loop with DJs.
Why did we frown when we said that? Like, DJs.
Yeah, well, they have big DJ concerts. Is that what you call them in District 7 here? You know,
near the mall, near the
near the mall. There's a big space there, and they set up a massive stage, and they'll fly someone in for the night. There was someone recently that they had as well.
DJs and has-beens, according to Rabbit Dog.
Yeah, or never will be's, probably. Not you bees, but never will be's. Never has beens. Yeah. There's quite a few of those. Although apparently back in the day, for Australia Day, which is another topic, you probably shouldn't get me talking about that, but I probably will. Australia Day back in the day before I came here, maybe Mel was here. They used to get pretty popular Australian acts to come over here for Australia Day. Of course, now there's nothing. They have nothing here for Australia. They don't even mention the word Australia Day these days.
You can't.
Anyway.
Yeah.
My visa came within 3 days of applying this year.
Great.
Yeah, I don't know if there's actually that much of a problem with it.
No, my friend, she came from the Philippines and she had an American passport. And it took her 2 weeks, I think.
So what about traveling? Did you notice anything about traveling as chicks? So a group of 3 ladies traveling sort of from here to Hoi An. Any issues at all?
No issues at all.
Ladies viewing?
No issues at all. Obviously, we traveled as a pack, you know. We were always together. We didn't stray far away from each other. Everybody was, we look Vietnamese. We look local, right? No, but I mean, we're Asian.
Maybe you and Jazzy, but I wouldn't say Barry.
Yeah, she's tall.
She's really tall.
Yeah, but
quite dark.
I mean, obviously, people knew that we were tourists because that's the town that we went to, right? Hoi An. But everybody's really friendly, okay? Very caring, as always, except the one driver. So it was raining when we visited, but we were at a corner and I couldn't get my Google map to work. There was a paper map, but I forgot to bring it. But I couldn't, get my bearings. And then so my friend said, let's just take one of those electric buggies back to the hotel. So the man spoke English and he took us on and the ride was 50,000. But here's the thing. It was like 10 or 20 meters away. We were at one corner and our hotel was in the next. And so, yeah. What?
Bees is saying you were too drunk.
No, I wasn't. It was in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there are still those kinds of instances where you're getting shafted. You're getting cheated. And it's like, come on.
You think because it's 3 women that you don't.
Yes.
That you don't know anything or whatever.
And so what happened was, I said,
might be
Hanoi.
just that it's a touristy town.
I said, Hanoi, you didn't tell us the hotel was there and then you charged us 50,000. And he was like, then he pretended he couldn't speak English.
But that's the extent of it, really. Yeah. Like you got diddled
cheated
out of
of
50,000. That was it for the whole trip for
$2, yeah.
3 nights, 4 days.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
Mm.
It's not too bad. Yeah, it's good.
No.
Oh, here
Don't,
we go.
no. Yeah.
You don't want that one?
No. I'm getting bitten.
All right.
I don't know about you.
So I actually I'm feeling really comfortable sitting here today.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
really
it
good.
is.
It's really good. Well, let's hang around for another 5 minutes.
Sure.
So that'll take us up to a couple of hours.
Mhm. Yeah, so going back to the trip, I'll be writing a few things on the Bureau Asia website. We haven't really contributed much to the website, but I think we don't really put anything unless it's an inspired piece. So everything there is obviously not sponsored. So what you're gonna read there is real travel review and
About
Hoi
Hoi
An.
An?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to do that? When are you going to do that?
I just told you that earlier today. Didn't I?
But when's it going to be finished?
Maybe next week.
Okay, about
I'm still
Hoi
going
An.
through all my photos. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of
Yes.
content out there about Hoi An.
Mm.
So what's your piece going to feature? How's it going to be different?
Well, the piece will be focused on, I don't know if it'll be anything different, but it's definitely a perspective.
Mm.
A lot of the content would probably be about a girls' trip.
You know, no one's asked about what I got up to when you were away, which is kind of good, actually, because I did nothing. I did absolutely nothing.
So, yeah, the angle would be
Ate a lot of biscuits.
girls' trip and clean food, vegan food.
Mm.
I'm not a vegan, but I did get to experience traveling with a vegan.
Mm.
And so that would be,
How was that?
really good, really healthy. Yeah. Gave
Yeah.
a lot of room for, for exploration and busting myths about being a vegan.
What do you
And
mean?
why people decide to be vegan. It's not all political.
Yeah.
It's also about people's health.
Yeah.
And physical health, mental health. And
But,
a lot of
to
the
flip that
choices-
around, a lot of the time, though, people who are vegan or vegetarian think that I need to eat meat all the time, but I don't. I like to eat, I love dairy and I love a steak.
But it's also
But-
because of your blood type.
What do you mean?
We're both O's, so obviously.
No, but I
need-
mean in terms of taste and stuff
Ah,
like that.
okay.
Having to, when I go out to a restaurant or something, I don't have to choose I don't have to choose a steak restaurant, or it doesn't have to have, I love a margarita pizza, for example, or salads and stuff like that. So sometimes I feel like it's the other way around as well, that people think that you have to have meat all the time, or eggs or dairy products or whatever,
100%.
which I don't.
Yeah.
And
I
we
agree.
actually, I don't know how much meat we actually eat. We're not massive.
No.
I wouldn't say we're massive meat eaters, but
No, not really.
yeah. Anyway,
So B says that, a girl's perspective is good, I guess.
yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
think so.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Bees is interested about the blood type and how it relates to your cravings or what kind of food.
Does it?
Yeah.
Really?
What kind of
Huh.
food you are, your body is gonna thrive on. So
Oh,
Yeah.
I've never heard this before.
I will need more research in that to speak about it like a blood professor. But yeah, that's something that I picked up from my recent travel, is that certain types of food preferences, or that your body can digest better than others, is related to your blood type.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
We might have to wrap it up on that note.
Before I
don't know.
start talking about how blood type affects
I've never heard you
astrology.
talk about that.
Astrology affects blood type. Sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right, cool. If there are no other,
I see the glaze in your eyes coming.
yeah, Bees goes, did you make that up?
No.
I feel like
no,
she did, Bees. I think I'm with you on that one.
no.
I think. Yeah.
More on that.
Am I? Oh, am I? Yeah, I got it.
Oh. Yeah. Oh,
I got tested.
just this year. That's so funny.
I had a health check. No, that was last year,
Last
I think,
year.
already. I had my sort of 50-year-old health check, and they actually wrote down my blood. Anyway, yeah, Vu's going to ask his doctor at work to see. Yeah, I'm with Bees on this one.
All right, let's take a poll.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap this up, I think. I think it was a really good day. Interesting. The professor's very interesting. And thank you heaps for joining us again. I don't know if I'm going to do a live next week. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens sort of during the week. The way it's going, though, with my license, I'm pretty sure that I'll be around, so I'll probably do that. And it's always good to hear what you guys have got to say. Yeah, and let me know tomorrow when I sort of do a review, put the chapters into the live stream or whatever. Let me know if you like interviewees on the live stream, so I can queue a few more up. I'll make sure that I get Vietnamese people. That's what I want on my live stream. There's no point having two foreigners really talk about issues and whatever.
I am wearing a Vietnam shirt today.
Yeah, but you were filling in sort of just to round out the session. I didn't really want to sit here with a spare mic, you know. So Vu is saying more Mel as well, please. Well, that'll depend on whether her medical advice or knowledge stacks up, because I don't want this channel.
You don't want fake news
to get done as a fake medical channel.
Yeah.
Don't want it to get blacklisted, but I don't know, Vu. She can probably come on in another 6 months' time, I reckon. So if you hang around for that, it'd be pretty good. I don't want to get her on. We have this thing.
I don't want to have.
We have this thing. We don't want to have a couples channel. You know, we don't want it to be that. I want it to be all about me, but mostly not a couples channel. So, but I wanted Mel to come on today because that seat was vacant. Really?
I'm a filler. Thanks,
Bees. All right, take it easy, and hopefully we'll see you next week. I think this location is turning into a bit of a place, I think. And I think the internet was, I'm running off my 4G at the moment.
That's the only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right.
What are you doing?
No, I'm just hiding.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. See you next week, probably. And look out for my videos coming up. Hopefully I'll get some up pretty soon. Okay. See ya.
Bye.